Hey everybody, BigAl here once again, and welcome to another episode of BigAl Reviews, the Lupin the Third special. Now, over the years, Lupin has been featured on many different gaming platforms, including, but not limited to, the Game Boy, Sega Saturn, and Konami MXX. And yet, out of all the games that have come out, only one managed to reach the United States.
Cliffhanger, the game that keeps you on the edge of your toes. By controlling the joystick
Nope. Get that shit out of here. I am not talking about Cliffhanger. That was a piece of shit clip show trying to pass itself off as a piece of shit Dragon's Lair clone. I am talking about the one, the only, Lupin the Third, Treasure of the Sorcerer King. Lupin the Third, Treasure of the Sorcerer King was released by Banpresto and Bandai for the PlayStation 2 on April 11th, 2004. Now, before I go into detail about the game itself, I want to tell you guys a little story about how I became a fan of Lupin in the first place. It was years ago, and one weeknight, I was bored out of my mind, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was bored. I didn't want to play any games, and I couldn't sleep, so I figured I'd turn on Adult Swim, see what was on. It was Lupin the Third. Now, it was the middle of an episode, so it was completely out of context what I saw. I believe it was the episode where Fujiko was kidnapped so a mad scientist can kidnap the Loch Ness Monster. I think that was the episode. So I turn on the TV and switch to Adult Swim, and I am greeted with Lupin saying, "Let's make like a tree and get the hell out of here." It was so random, and I was laughing so fucking hard, I was bound and determined to watch the rest of this series. Now, fast forward a couple of years from there. You know, I'm now a diehard Lupin the Third fan, and I wanted to get some PlayStation 2 games to add to my collection. So I go to my local used game shop, and I'm browsing the shelves, and wouldn't you know it, this came across my eye, and I'm looking at this, and I was like, there was a Lupin the Third game, and no one fucking told me. Now, as far as I'm aware, there were no advertisements for this game, there wasn't anybody talking about it in magazines, there wasn't anything on TV about it. In fact, on the back it advertises the Adult Swim version on the Adult Swim dub on Cartoon Network, and yet to my knowledge, they didn't talk about this game. So I bought it, and the rest you can probably figure out from here on out. But as with all my other games, let's take a look at the intro. Jesus Christ, we haven't even started the game yet and already we're blown away. But I shouldn't put too much faith in the opening. I mean, it's pretty badass and all, but I don't know, I'm just afraid I'll set myself up for disappointment later. Now, Treasure of the Sorcerer King was released in the United States to coincide with the popular Adult Swim dub of the Red Jacket Lupin the Third series, which means that all the original voice actors would be reprising their roles, directed by Richard F. Carr, who would also be the voice of Daisuke Jigen. And if you're wondering what the core gameplay is like, imagine a mix-up between Metal Gear Solid and Tomb Raider. So you're sneaking around and putting on disguises, but at the same time looking for treasure. So you would think this would be the ultimate Lupin the Third game. Well, a little bit of nicks to that. For starters, there's a disguise function in the game. You can pick up disguises along the way to fool your enemies. Now, when you put on these disguises, you'll be able to do what is known as a disguise action. It's an action that allows you to trick the enemy into thinking that you're not Lupin, and you're one of them. Like, for example, if I was Lupin and I went to a Homestuck convention, I could just don these horns right here and shout, "Buckets!" and they'll accept me as one of their own. It's a good idea in theory, but the problem arises when you have to do it constantly to every single character around you. And when there's more than one cop in the room, you're scrambling to salute every single one of them like a jackass so that they don't try to tackle you and go LAPD on your ass. However, the flip side is, if you successfully fool them into thinking you're a cop, you'll be able to pickpocket them for cool goodies. Goodies such as concept art and pieces of the soundtrack. And that's actually kind of cool. Now, second of all, a good chunk of the levels in this game are like huge mazes. Now, in itself, that's not too bad, but when the level designs are so convoluted that you can't even get past the second level, I think it's time to start rethinking your level design. This is the second level, and it took me hours to get through it before I said fuck it and looked up a walkthrough. And overall, it's glitchy, it's buggy, and the boss battles can be very, very long and annoying at times. Now, with that out of the way, what's good about this game? Well, you'll be happy to hear there's a lot. The voice work is absolutely fantastic in this game, and you can tell the actors put their heart and soul into it. Here's a sample with Jigen talking to a local black market dealer.
Yeah, what do you want?
Hey man, nice stuff. I see you do a little fencing on the side, huh?
So what?
Hey pal, cool it. Don't get me wrong here, okay? As a matter of fact, I'm in the same business.
Alright, what the hell you want then?
I'm looking for a floor plan of the castle and everything there is to know about its security. Know anyone who could help me out?
Well, there's a guy I know. Runs a black market on the outskirts of town. And well, he just so happens to deal exclusively with items from the castle.
Oh?
He's not exactly the friendly type, but he might be able to tell you something.
Thanks.
Instead of thanking me, why don't you buy some?
Huh? Sure.
Here you go.
Ah, I see. See ya.
You know what? Let me show you one more scene to prove my point.
Yoo-hoo! Fuji cakes!
Lupin, you scared me.
Oh, baby, you're even more beautiful than usual tonight. You make a guy want to poke you. Poke? Poke?
You came sooner than I expected.
Oh, hard not to when you're around, Fuji cakes. No drawbridge or moat could keep me out.
And just exactly why are you here, Lupin? It doesn't sound like you came just to flirt with me.
Hey, I went through hell just to get in here and see you. Don't give me the cold shoulder now.
Well then, you need to do something about the abysmal way you're dressed. It's hardly leading man material. There are quite a few guest rooms around here. You might be able to lift a tuxedo or two.
Well, I'll add that to my to-do list for the evening.
What now?
Fujiko, darling.
Don't you have to go to work now?
Oh, I'd rather go to work on you, baby.
And we're gonna stop it there. Wait a second. T for teen. You're pushing it, guys. The story is great with a lot of twists and turns and interesting characters. Without spoiling too much, let's just say it'll remind you of Castle of Cagliostro. There's ninjas to fight, castles to raid, and a small town to walk around. And the music? My god, the music. The soundtrack was composed by legendary jazz musician Yuji Ono, who's been working on Lupin the Third soundtrack since the 70s. Every single song in this game will get you in the mood. From hunting for treasure, rescuing damsels in distress, and avoiding Zenigata.
Lupin! You're under arrest!
I said, avoiding Zenigata. So, with everything that I said about this game, what's my final verdict? Well, to be honest, I'm really torn, because on one hand, the music is outstanding, the voice acting is great, the cutscenes are hilarious, the story is awesome, but on the other hand, it's glitchy, it's buggy, puzzles are annoying at times, boss fights are far too long and drawn out. The enemy AI is both absolutely retarded and genius at the same time. Now, what I mean by this is that you'll be in a room. On one hand, you'll be in a room full of cops. You have to salute every single fucking one of them. Every single time, over and over again, so you don't get caught. But on the other hand, you'll be in a mile-long hallway Just you and nobody else except for the asshole at the end of the hallway. There's a mile between you. You're standing perfectly still. Suddenly, you got cops everywhere on your ass because the asshole at the end of the hallway, for some reason, has super sight and knows that it's you from a mile away. Even if you're wearing a disguise that covers your goddamn face. So, really all I have to say is, if you are a diehard Lupin fan, and only if you are a diehard Lupin fan, get this game. Otherwise, you're probably not going to like it. And with that, folks, that's the end of this review. Join me next time for the final part of the Lupin the Third special, when we talk about the lost pilot footage of Lupin the Eighth. Stay tuned.